What is good, Facebook and IG? I'm tapped in. I'm on now. Okay, I was making sure I'm on both things. Instagram probably gonna think I'm lagging. It's all good. Much love, Dante here. I'm grateful for everybody who's in the building today. Can y'all do me one favor? If you're catching this live, shout out to you. I appreciate you tapping in. If you're catching this on the replay, can you comment on this video? Replay under the video. So if you're catching this later in the day or tomorrow or next week, I don't really care when you catching it. What's up, Luke? I see you, my guy. Shout out to the London boys out there. If you're catching this on the replay, comment hashtag replay below. Much love. Harrison, I see you on here too. Much love, my youngin. How you feeling? But I'm excited to talk about what we're going to get into today, just for the simple fact that it's something that has been consistent in my life now for the last 3-4 years, but I don't always share about or talk about in detail. And because I just live in a new city now, so I got a lot of new friends, a lot of new people that I'm engaging with, a lot of new people that I'm plugged in with. They're kind of like asking me like the same question over and over again. I've kind of noticed now, and that's like why are you guys always talking about gratitude? What are you guys are talking about? Me and my wife. It's like, why are you guys always so heavy on gratitude? You guys talk about gratitude every day, and kind of maybe not necessarily understanding. And I wanted to take today's live to really talk about that in a little bit more detail. What gratitude means for us, what it hopefully can mean for you, in some ways, and some things it is that we've done that we implement in our own lives that we hope that you could take with you and maybe bring some value to you. But gratitude really is all about perspective. And you're going to hear me say and use that word perspective a lot today, because I think that it matters, because perspective is how it's not even necessarily about the obstacle, the challenge, the difficulty, or whatever it is that's going on. It's all about how you view the thing, and how you view the thing will be a direct effect on what you actually do. How you do the thing is based off how you actually view it. If you view your going to the gym as a waste of time, then you're not going to actually do it. Even if you go, if you view it in your mind as, I'm not going to get anything out of this, or today is this day, or like what every situation in your life, whether it be work, whether it be parenting, whether it be spiritual things, whether it be like, it doesn't matter. How you view it is going to directly affect like how you actually steward that thing, how you actually do that thing, what your role is directly affected on how you view it. So having a perspective and a vision and a view of gratitude, I think, is massively important. So let's get into an official definition from what the word gratitude even means. Okay, so this is your Webster's dictionary, or this is like, if you Google gratitude definition, this is what you're gonna get. It says the quality of being thankful and readiness to show appreciation for and to return kindness. That is the official definition of gratitude. And I think that that's important, because it says the quality of being thankful, not just saying thank you because somebody gave you something. It's the quality of being thankful. It's not even about doing anything. It's about being thankful. And that's why people say we're human beings. We're not human doings. So it's like who it is that I am. It's about becoming. That's why even like Jim Rohn will say, it's not even about what you do, it's about who it is that you become. Because if you become this guy, if you become somebody who goes to the gym avidly, you'll work out without it being a problem, as opposed to somebody who just works out. You want to become that person and embody the beliefs of what that person will be, so that way you'll continuously do the actions and it won't feel like you have to fight yourself, because that's just who it is that you are. So for everything that goes on inside of my household, the Lewis household, we base everything, we start everything with a mindset and a perception of gratitude. Where does that come from though? The original, the easiest thing to express gratitude for is simply being alive. Like, how crazy is that? Like that the most, I wouldn't say the easiest, but the first step for anybody else who's hearing me, who's under the sound of my voice right now, under my direct influence. Hey, shout out to you, H. What's up, big fella? How you doing? Good to see y'all. P. Marshall, good to see you, fam. What's going on with you? Much love. Nikki, I see you on here. But the first thing is recognizing that, like, I just got a call last week that one of my uncles had passed, and it's heartbreaking. He was 59 years old. He died in his sleep, and it's like, it sucks like a lot. And that's not the only call I've gotten in the last 36 months about somebody passing. And put a comment a 1 below if you've experienced anybody that you know in your personal life who's died in the last 3 years. And it's like, that will greatly affect you. I had an uncle a couple of years ago. He passed. He got hit by a drunk driver at 6 a.m. on his way to work. And you're like, damn, like somebody was lit at 6 a.m. and yes, was speeding obviously, and came onto the side of the street and went head to head with him in his car. Regular guy, like not doing any, like wasn't doing anything wrong, wasn't in no environment he shouldn't have been in, was literally going to work at 6 a.m. So it's like, to think in the morning when I wake up, and it's like, yes, I got emails to respond to, I got people to text, I got to do a live, I got to create a YouTube video, I got to do all the things that are in my play of what is it that I do for work. I got to, like, there's many of things. But before I could even jump into those things, addressing my day, wow, God, thank you that I'm up this morning. Thank you that I have the ability to go out and even do these things. Thank you for waking me up today, because I recognize and I understand that not everybody woke up this morning. So there's people who are getting that phone call right now that so-and-so didn't make it, or that so-and-so is not here anymore. And their lives are changed forever from that point. So because I don't have direct control over everything, and again, a part of being grateful, a part of gratitude is recognizing that you're actually not in as much control as you think you are. And what do I mean by that? Have you ever talked to somebody, or have you ever... I challenge you, ask somebody, especially for my younger people, ask somebody a little bit older than you, older people, you can answer it directly. What is some of the hardest and toughest times you've ever had in your life? What are some of the hardest things that you've ever had to walk through? And a lot of people will refer to things it is that they don't have control over, and death being one of them. And it's not this live vision to be like, oh my God, we can die tomorrow. Let's all just be like, no, that's not my point. My point is that most people will recognize that some of the toughest things to deal with in life is death, is the grief that comes along with that, is that part of it, that perspective. And you recognize that I don't have as much control as I thought I did previously. And so because I don't have that much control, I can express gratitude and express thankfulness. And even in our original definition, it says the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation for, and to return kindness. Who am I returning the kindness to? I don't know about all of y'all, but for me, I return my kindness to Jesus Christ for saving and for giving us the gift of salvation. And it gives me the mindset and recognition to know that, hey, if I'm alive, if I'm breathing right now, that there's purpose along with the fact that I'm alive, because I could have died yesterday. And that helps me a lot personally with to not look at the problems, the things that I'm going through, the things that I'm dealing with. And I got a lot of stuff on my plate. I'm gonna share some stuff with y'all today that you have never heard me talk about. So it's like I got some serious stuff on my plate to be able to walk through, but it comes from the mindset that how I handle it, how I carry it, comes from the mindset and the perspective of me being grateful. So has anybody ever played a sport? Put a comment in the chat. You played in a sport ever to where you had referees and you play, not just playing pickup basketball. I'm talking about referees included, being on a field or a court or something like that. Comment whatever sport it is that you played in the chat below. I played football, basketball, lacrosse. I thought about doing track in 8th grade, but I was too slow. So they tried to put me on shot put. I was like, nah, I'm not feeling shot put. I'll miss out on track. And that's how I got into lacrosse. I played lacrosse for 2 years. Lacrosse is a really, really fun sport. Not a lot of black people play lacrosse, but if they really knew, lacrosse is actually popping. It's a great sport. So shout out to anybody here who plays lacrosse. But my point about playing in any kind of a sports game is think about the mindset of somebody who's in the game actively playing. I see Joel just said he plays football, and he played football. I know Xavier on here said he plays football. We got a lot of football players on here. Any other sports? But imagine, I want you to think about your view of the field from when you're actually playing the game. So you're in it. You're one of the 11 men on either side of the field. There's 22 people on the field. You're one of those people. Your viewpoint from inside of the actual game. Now, I want you to compare that to the view that somebody has who's on the sidelines, meaning that they're still on the field or still on the court, but they're not actively in the game. They're watching the game from the sideline. Then our third viewpoint is somebody who's actually in the press box. And if you guys have never been in a press box, put a 1 in the chat. Have you ever been to a press box before? Have you ever been inside the press box and been able to see the field, see the court, see the arena from the highest point of view it is that they have? Have you seen that before? And I want you to compare all three of those views. And now I want to talk to you just about the perspective of what's going on. A lot of times, I know for me personally, when I'm in the situation, something just happened to me, something just happened to a family member of mine, something happened in my business, I'm in the game. So a lot of times it's tougher for me to view and get the entire view of the field of what's happening because I'm in the game. I got the ball in my hands, it's 3rd and 1, and all I can focus on is trying to get this 1 yard or trying to take this one step, as opposed to the point of view that God always has, which is from the press box, where they can see everything that has happened, that is happening, and that's about to happen. And if you or us or we all intentionally decide to say, you know what, I'm going to try to view my life more from the press box as opposed to actually in the game, it will change our perspective. So it's like, okay, yes, this situation just happened. Yes, this person just pissed me off. But if I view it or I respond from the mindset of, okay, well, I'm in the game right now, I got to deal with this, and I make an action that I will regret because I wasn't thinking about the long-term ramifications of that, you can make critical mistakes. You can ruin relationships. You can do things that sometimes are never come backable from. You can never recover from some things it is that you can say, no matter how many times it is that you apologize. But has anybody ever been in a heated argument and said something that you wish you didn't say? If you would have thought about the relationship long term, you wouldn't have actually said that. I've done it plenty of times. Plenty of times have I been in a situation, and because I wasn't thinking or wasn't viewing the situation from a higher point of view, I reacted or I responded or I took part into actions that were only addressing that one specific situation, and it cost me long term because I couldn't see it from the press box. I couldn't express or couldn't recognize, or I couldn't put myself, or one term that I use all the time is zoom out. Zoom out has helped me so many times. You've been on a computer before, something super zoomed in, you zoom out, you're like, okay, I can see the whole thing. I know for me, I've been in trading for a long time. So when you're looking at things from a small time frame on the chart, as opposed to the overall time frame, you get such a bigger view. You get such a better understanding. You get such more value from looking at it from the press box, as opposed to just just viewing it from the mindset of being in the actual game. And that helps so much. And even when it comes to being grateful, all somebody who's ungrateful is doing is focusing and putting more energy on the things it is that they don't have rather than the things it is that they do have. And no matter where it is that you get in life, there will always be things it is that you don't have. So having that spirit of, okay, well, I'm just going to focus on, and again, this stuff, like this is in human nature, going all the way back to the garden. What do I mean in the garden? Adam and Eve. God said y'all can have everything fruitful, like literally every tree in the whole garden except one. And all it took for them was to be contaminated, or to have that one thought of, or to hear that from the serpent of, okay, well, y'all can't have access to this tree. So what, basically, getting them to focus on not the abundance it is that God gave them, but to focus on the one thing it is that they didn't have or didn't have access to. And we do that all the time. I find that in my life often. So if anybody ever experienced that before, put a 5 down below. If you ever had a moment where you were focusing on something it is, or focusing on the negative aspect of a thing, or something it is that you didn't have, as opposed to what it is that you do have. This is another research point I'm gonna give you here from the Berkeley College of Research, and this is so heavy. It talks about gratitude. It says, research suggests that gratitude may be associated with many benefits for individuals, including better physical and psychological health, increased happiness and life satisfaction, and a decreased sense of materialism. Massive decreased sense of materialism. I think that is so crazy, especially if anybody who lives in America. I got a following that is all over the world, but for anybody who lives in the States, we're such a materialistic country. It's crazy. It matters. People care so much about what car you drive, or how big your house is, or how much money you got in the bank, or how many rollies you got, or how, like, all of that stuff has so much importance. And it causes people to live a life, especially in the social media day and age, to where they live their life ungrateful because they don't have things that other people seem to have. And that is it is one of the worst ways to live your life, because what you recognize as you live more of life is that and no matter what level you're playing at, that there's always going to be somebody who's got more and always got somebody who's got less. So the smart thing to do is to be grateful for whatever it is that you're at, regardless of how much it is that you have, or regardless. For right now, shoot, I want a Tesla. I wanted a Tesla, all black Tesla Model X since I think 2018 when I first drove in one. So it's like me being like, I've desired that car for a long time now, but at the same time, I don't get jealous or frustrated at any point in time it is that I don't have it, because I'll always I'll buy the Tesla, and then I might get exposed to a new car that I want after that. It never stops, is my point. It's like, I know, for even another example, and again, I'm going to be as transparent as possible with things it is that I've walked out and I've experienced, because at the end of the day, this is practice for me, telling my story and sharing and getting reps up and providing value for anybody it is that's tapped in with me right now. But I know in high school, I used to tell myself all the time, I'm gonna be a millionaire at 25. I'm gonna be a millionaire at 25. I didn't know how it was gonna happen. I just was like, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 25 years old, without having any kind of recognition or clue how it is I was going to do it. I just knew I was going to be in business in some way and was going to make some things happen. What's my point? My point is, I'm 28 years old currently right now, and I've never made $1 million in the course of a calendar year. So it's like, and my nature that doesn't have this perspective leans to say, okay, well, I'm 3 years late on what it is my goal was, as opposed to recognizing that when I was 18 years old, my net worth was nothing. I didn't have a pot to piss in. So it's like from where I went from 18, 19 years old to where I'm at now at 28, even though I haven't accomplished and gotten all the way to my goal yet, there's a massive amount of gratitude it is that I should have and be able to express for where it is that I'm at currently, even though I have goals bigger than where it is that I currently am. And I think that is key, because even when I remember being 24 years old, thinking to myself, like, damn, how am I, like, I got 1 year left to become, like, it's just such a bad mentality to have, as opposed to recognizing and being grateful for where it is that I am at currently, whether my business and my finances were growing at this time or not. The pure fact that nobody had to call my mom, or that nobody had to call my dad, or call my wife, or call my siblings and be like, hey, X, Y, and Z happened to Dante and he's not here anymore. Like, I can be grateful and appreciative for that. I can be appreciative for the things it is that God has blessed me with. I can be appreciative and grateful for the things it is that are in my current possession, while still having a desire for more. But that desire for more isn't based out of frustration. It's based out of faith. So now I'm not moving from frustration to frustration as I hit my goals. I'm moving from faith to faith. And that's why it's difficult to work with people at times who don't believe that they were created, or don't believe that there's some level or some kind of higher power, because it's all like, well, what can I do? What can I control? I need to work harder. And now you live a whole life trying to work hard, trying to hustle with no peace. And it's like, I don't want that. I have no desire for a life to where I am successful, but I'm also like losing my mind every day and insane because I'm not actually happy with where it is that I currently am. And a lot of people's definition of success and what that means for them is all based about material things, as opposed to having a whole healthy life, not necessarily balanced, but flow. I'm never looking to have a balanced life. I'm looking to have a life that's within rhythm. I can't touch everything at the same time, but I can definitely touch everything at the right time, as opposed to having a perspective of, I need to spend 2 hours with my kids, 2 hours with my wife, 2 hours at work, 2 hours at the gym. Like, it's never going to be balanced, but I can have a rhythm for how it is that we operate inside of our life. And when we talk about Adam and Eve in the garden, like choosing to focus on the things it is that were negative, it's the choice is key, because the choice is your actual soul. Your soul is made up, you got to know about the senses of your soul. You have 5 senses of your soul, and they're your mind, your will, your emotions, your intellect, and your imagination. That makes up what your soul actually is. Your mind, your will, your intellect, your imagination, and your emotions together are what your soul is. So when situations are happening in your life, you can choose to focus your imagination on the negative things. Okay, a bad thing happened to you. Now you fall into a cycle of just creating crazier and worse situations in your head about the situation that just happened to you at hand, as opposed to focusing your imagination on what good can come out of the bad situation or the thing it is that just happened to you. Or there's no event in your life that's all bad or all good. And there's not one event that will ever happen to you that is 100% good or 100% bad. There's levels to everything, and there's an opposite side to everything. And it's your choice whether you want to see the good. And this is not easy stuff. This is real shit that you're going to have to walk out. And I'll give you even probably my most transparent example. I've never shared this online before, but we found out just a couple of months ago that my son is on the spectrum for autism. So he's 2 and some change now, 2 in a couple of months. And right before he turned 2, we started to notice different things, and we took him in to get checked out, and we found out that he is on the spectrum for autism. Now, what that means is, like, there's 100 million labels that can go under that, you know what I mean? There's high functioning and low function. There's literally, like, I could do a whole separate webinar on that specific topic. But what I want to talk about is my initial frustration. And my initial frustration was the fact that my expectations of what it was going to be like to have a son versus what it is that I experienced when I first heard that news, they weren't meeting. They were not meeting at all. So the only time there's frustration in your life is when you have expectations for something and then they're not met due to something else. So for me, what I envisioned at the time of having, you know what I mean? I'm thinking about, this is my first boy, it's my first child. So I'm like, my baby boy is perfect. There's nothing wrong with him. There's nothing wrong at all in general. There's gonna be no issues in his life. He's never gonna have to deal with nothing. Daddy's gonna set it up. And that was just my false pretense and false expectations of what it was going to be like to be a dad. And then we find out this news, and they're like, oh, he might not do this, he might not do that, and they suggesting all these different things that are not true. or that are not necessarily true because he's 2 and they're telling me things that he's not going to be able to do at 15, 16, or 30. And it's like to recognize in that moment, this did not happen in a day. This is something that we're still actively walking out right now, because it doesn't just go away. This is something that we have to learn the best ways, the most effective ways to communicate with him. We have to learn the most and best effective ways to let him communicate with us. We have to be so intentional with his diet. We have to do a lot of things we have therapy 2-3 times a week now. There's a lot that goes into the package of raising a child who has any kind of special need. So it's like, but through that, when we first found this information out a couple months ago, I was initially frustrated because it wasn't meeting my expectations. But then as I prayed on it, as I was able to sit, as I was able to talk to counsel, for anybody who's close to me, you've known this for months now. And if you don't know, it's the first time. It just means that we're probably not as close as you may think it is that we are. But what I had to work myself through was finding the good in a situation that I thought originally was all bad. And since it's changed my mindset and changed my perspective so much, because now, even just the other day, I was having a conversation with somebody, and him and his wife been married for almost 7 years. And he's like, we've been trying to have a kid for 7 years and haven't had a kid. And we're holding each other's hands in prayer and pretty much like speaking that this is over his life, and that eventually and hopefully that he's going to have the kid. And I believe that he is. But it's like to know that like I was frustrated about something that's happening with my son, while one of my friends is like, I wish I even had a son, is a perspective change. Same way as like you complain about something that's going on at your job, and there's somebody who in South Africa is not even making a quarter of what you make at your job, yet you're so frustrated about whatever it is that's happened with you financially. It's perspective. So as opposed to complaining, as opposed to being frustrated, try to recognize the good, try to recognize the favor, try to recognize the things that like identify it, call it out. And I'm going to give you some tips and some help. What up, Stu? What up? What up, Say? What's going on? Who else is on here right now? I see X on here still. I see a few people on here. Much love. But it's a choice, is my point, to focus my mind, will, and emotions on the good things as opposed to the bad, because even things that are perceived to be good, there's bad under it, and things that are perceived to be bad, there's good under it. It's just about your choice to go and find and focus on those things. So my wife and I, we have a whole brand that's built on gratitude, because it's really a rock that we want to stand our family on, to say, you know what, regardless of the situation, we're going to choose to find the good things. And it's not easy, and it's not every day that it just comes naturally, or that it's just like, oh, you know what, I'm just happy and jolly. But what it is that I do, I have a process to help me be more grateful. So I'm about to give y'all these 3 steps. If y'all want the 3 steps to help you in your own life experience more gratitude, express more gratitude to others, can I get some ones in the chat and in the comments if you want the 3 tools? 3 tools that will help you, hopefully. And again, if they don't help you, you can give me your own suggestions and we can work this thing out together. Okay, I see a couple ones. Much love, much love. All right, perfect. So for one, this is easy and simple. Like, I'm sure you guys have heard this before. I'm not sure who it is hasn't heard of this before, but have you actually implemented it in your own life? I don't know. We're going to find out. So number 1 is creating a gratitude journal. So a gratitude journal, you can do this whether you write it down. For me, I told you on my last live, my handwriting is trash. It's got to be electronic for me. But a gratitude journal, or my friend Kanoa, shout out to Kanoa, he just had a baby as well. He calls it his miracle journal. And it's like when you recognize, or things it is that God has done for you, or things it is that have happened to you, or things that have gone well in your life, to document those things. That way, when overwhelming situations are actually happening to you, like, okay, 3, 4, 5 bad things, I put bad in quotations because the things it is that you think are bad, there's good under them, even if you don't see it in the moment as of right now. When you get hit with a couple, anybody ever been hit consecutively by things that just felt negative? You're like, bro, can I get a win? I feel like I can't win. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things just bad happen in a row. You're like, ugh, like it just forces you to that frustrated point. I've experienced that multiple times, and being able to look back at a journal that has documented all the good things that is because it's like, it's so much easier to remember the bad than it is the good. That's why when somebody has bad food, when a restaurant makes a mistake, it is so much easier for somebody, it's more common for somebody who was frustrated about the restaurant to comment on Yelp and to complain than it is for somebody who would love their experience. Much more common. It's because when bad things happen, our human brain tend to overly focus on said thing. So my point to you is that having some kind of documentation to where when things get a little overwhelming, I can read about, even for me personally, like even when it comes to my son, like if anybody knows our birth story, we did a home birth and we had complications that happen and all types of things that happen, and him just being born alive is a miracle in itself. So when I write out or when I look at the details of what actually happened to us regarding him in a situation or in a moment where he may be freaking out or he may be just getting a little too excited or something is not necessarily going right, but I can go back and peel back and remember the details of a crazy situation that happened to me to where there was nothing but favor that was felt on that moment. It helps me deal with the feelings or the thoughts or and again, we talk about your mind, your will, your emotions, your intellect, and your imagination. Those things make up what your soul is. So when things happen and they're on your mind, I can choose to put other things in my mind by making sure I read this content. And you have the ability to create and control that content. And it can be, it's so much more for you. Yes, waking up every day is the first win. But if you really sat and thought about it, like how God has really been good to you, like in detail, and like been like, wow, like, and this is why it's not necessarily to go back on all the miracles that you've experienced and all the wins it is that you've had, but going forward from now on, something big happened to you, something small happened to you, but it's a win, document it inside of your gratitude journal. It's one thing. Two is remembering the bad. A lot of times with gratitude, we talk about like, okay, it's all about your perspective on what it is that you're going through currently right now. But even deeper than just your perspective is like, okay, we live in a house that we really, really like currently right now. I can remember though when I was still living on my sister's couch and I couldn't afford to pay any kind of rent every single month, and she allowed me to do that. I remember being we eat good food now. I remember being in a jail cell though, eating these 3 terrible meals every single day, but having absolutely no other options. So I had to get it down by any means. That gives me a feeling of gratitude to recognize what is it that I've been through and to say, wow, that was a tough situation. I don't have to deal with that anymore. I'm grateful that I don't have to live how I once did, to where in an environment or an area where I didn't like or I didn't appreciate or it really just sucked. Anybody ever been through a sucky situation before? Listen, if you've been through a sucky situation, I've experienced some trash before. Anybody been through a trash situation? If you've experienced a sucky, a terrible situation, please let me know, because sometimes everybody just walks around like everything. This is like like Instagram and social media. It's all like so much fake and just BS of just like, oh, I'm just perfect. Oh, everything is going well. Listen, we live in a broken world. Earth is a broken world, and I've never met anybody who's got it all together and figured everything out and just loves their life to the point where they've never have any trials or trouble, or that's not real. So it's like, because it's not real, let's just be honest about where it is that we're at. I've experienced some sucky situations before. And when I think back on them and thinking about the fact that I don't have to do that anymore, or I don't have to live that way anymore, and regardless of the problems it is I'm dealing with right now, it brings me some solace and some peace and some gratitude to say, wow, God, I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with or experience that anymore. And now when I see somebody who may be actively going through something it is that I've already experienced, I have some game that I can help them with. I have some perspective. Hey, listen, I went through that, and this is what it is that I did to get through. Or even if there's nothing it is that they can do, you just got to deal with it for this small season. But there's an other side, and I can show you right now. I'm living proof of the other side. I am the other side. Like, you can give them that from your view of the situation. But if you live in a state of you're just frustrated because you're just pissed off. You live in a pissed off life because you don't recognize or don't appreciate anything it is that you've experienced. The fact that you're like, if you don't. It's easy, like it's hard for God to give you more when you don't appreciate or show or steward. Somebody would say steward well where it is that you're at right now. Have you ever dealt with an ungrateful kid, like a 2, 3, 4, maybe like 4 or 5 years old, who's not grateful for nothing? And you're the adult or the person that's responsible for them in that moment, but it's like they ask you for something, you give it to them, and they act like you were entitled or you were just supposed to give it to them because they are alive, and that's just your responsibility. And then the next time they ask you for something else, it's like, bro, I don't even want to give it to you. I don't even want to help you out. I see you struggling with something, but because you don't have the attitude or the appreciation or the attitude of gratitude or to be able to recognize that you're not in control of the situation and I can fix it for you, because you don't have that, I'm not going to help you because you're ungrateful. In a lot of ways, we look like that to God sometimes, of like just so frustrated about situations that some of them are so small. I literally just saw a video of a guy about to get shot playing basketball. I'm like, damn, like playing a game, none of y'all getting paid, y'all in LA Fitness, and you pulling out guns. It's just like, you're just so not like, not even recognizing just the gift and the beauty of this life it is that we have, and that it's hard to bless you. It's hard to give you more when you can't be grateful or steward where it is that you're at right now. And I'll say this too as well. We have a slogan at our church for this year. It's like our phrase of the year. It's called "Here is Holy." And all it means is that recognizing that where you're at currently right now, not where you want to be tomorrow, not where you want to be when you make an extra $100,000, not where you're going to be if you can get a couple more date nights, not where you're going to be when the kid gets here, none of that stuff. Here, now, today. You might not make it to tomorrow. So recognizing that where you're at right now is exactly where God wants you. He doesn't want you, if he wanted you to have what it is you thought you were supposed to have right now, he would have given it to you. Perfect example. I think that I'm going to be able to be speaking on big stages at some point in time in my life. But if I was ready for it right now, I would already be there. If I was ready for millions of dollars on my bank account right now, I would already have it. So whatever it is that I have to go through to get to that point of where it is I believe I'm supposed to be at, that's okay. And I recognize that while I'm going through it, while I'm in my here, that it's like that's where the whole mirage and the fakeness of success comes in at. It's like, oh, okay, once you hit $400,000, now you're successful. But like, what happens when you get there? Then what? You're going to want $4 million. So it's like, now you go through this whole thing of not being grateful from your process of 400K to a 4 million. And it's all based on perspective. That's why gratitude is so important, because it will help you wherever it is that you're at in life, whether you, and again, have it all is all relative. Because there's somebody, if you ever been around somebody who makes a couple $100,000 versus somebody who has a couple $1 million, is a totally different life. And I'm sure that there's people who got a couple $1 million who've been around a couple billionaires, and you're like, whoa, like they live in a whole different kind of life. The billionaires still got problems every day though. So it's like, it's not about, the only reason that a lot of people put so much emphasis on money though is because there's a lot of people living in poverty, and we all think that, experiencing browser tabs. Okay, I got to close this live soon. It's all good. But when you grow up in poverty, it makes it feel like, or makes you feel like, that money will just solve all the problems in the world. And because I grew up in poverty, I felt that way as well. And then you realize, if you I forget this article, but it talks about how $80,000 to $85,000 a year will pretty much have you living a good life in almost anywhere in the world. So it's like all the millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire comments and Elon, all of that stuff. Yes, it's nothing wrong with wanting that kind of wealth. But to think that that's going to solve all of your problems is a terrible mindset to have. And you will realize once you start to attain some of those financial things that it didn't actually fix the problems. So I did this live. Oh, I'm only on number 2. 1 was gratitude journal. 2 was remember the bad. And then the third thing to help you with your gratitude is to ask yourself these 3 questions. So this helps me often. First thing is, what have I received? And this is really when I'm talking to people, but gratitude really starts with your relationship with God. But I'm not going to get too much into that for y'all today. But when you're talking about people, it's like, what have I received from this person? Has this, and again, a lot of times people make it about gifts and money, but you don't ignore encouragement. Don't ignore, again, when you become a parent too, you start to appreciate your parents so much more. Like when I had my kids, I'm like, wow, mom, like you really wiped my behind for all them years and told me to keep me away from setting my hand on the fire. Like you really came clutch for me. Many of times it changed my view of my parents once I had my own kids and recognized what that responsibility is like on the day in and day out. And that really helped me. But I asked myself, what have I received from this person? And don't just make it about physical things. Think about encouragement. Think about spiritual things. Think about those things that are deeper than just what somebody can actually put into your hand. My next question I ask is, what have I given to that same person? So the same person it is that I'm like, what have I gotten from them? My next question is, what have I actually given them? And it gives me the mindset of, okay, well, I can't expect this from a person if I'm not even giving it to them. And a lot of times people make it seem like, okay, I have to wait to receive something from somebody to be able to go and to give them something. No, when you live a life that's based on gratitude, especially when that gratitude flows out of your relationship with the Father, now I look at people totally different, because whether this person gives something to me or not, I can express gratitude, I can express generosity, I can express and be able to give to them, because I'm not even looking for anything back from you. It's not even on that for me. So it helps the perspective of, how do I treat the people it is that are in my life? How do I steward the relationships it is that I do have? It's based from that perspective of gratitude. So that's the second question. And the third one is, what troubles and difficulty have I caused? This one kills me every time I ask myself, because it's like, well, what have I done that have caused trouble, difficulty and issues in other people's lives. And again, if this is nothing for you and you just lived a perfect life, you never offended anybody, you never had then this ain't for you. But for the people who've experienced something, the people who've done some wrong, and again, I am 100,000%. I've made actions, made decisions, made comments that have caused trouble and difficulty for other people. And now walking through, first forgiving myself, and then two, going to that is a whole process in itself. But again, it gives me gratitude. It gives me grace for the people it is that I'm dealing with, because now when I think about trouble that I've caused, anybody that's caused trouble in my own life, it's harder to let that stuff stick, because I know that I'm not perfect and I know that I don't deserve it. Because I recognize that I've made my own mistakes, that I've done bad on my own. When somebody else does bad or causes harm to me, it's not like what's the word? Like a boomerang. Like, okay, well, I did this, it's going to come back around. I forget the word I'm looking for, but it's not like, karma. It's not karma that because I did bad, I'm going to get bad back directly. That's not my point. My point is that it's more of perspective that all humans have done bad, because there's no human out here that's done it all right the whole time. That's not real. That's not true. And it doesn't exist. I definitely have to jump off this live though. So I'm grateful for everybody who tapped in with us today. I hope you got some value out of our this little conversation that we have. This video we uploaded to YouTube at some point in time later in the day. Much love. Appreciate you all. Catch me on the next live. Peace.